So, we're still going. So, into our confessional with Brother Matthew, and a welcome return from the pub, from the wise words of producer Susie.
Hello.
Hello, good
Wow.
afternoon. All right, very good. What's the drink of the day, by the way? I've forgotten.
I'm probably going to have a gin and tonic later, I think.
Okay,
Quite right.
That's the drink of the day then. That's what it's going to have to be. So here we go. Today's confession, which comes from John. John says, my tale, Father Simon and the team, took place many years ago in a small market town in the heart of Bedfordshire. It concerned a young man of around 20 who bore an uncanny resemblance to me. So we're going to call him John.
Yeah.
At the time of this narrative, John was desperately trying to ingratiate himself in the eyes of a young lady who lived only a couple of streets away from his home and with whom he was desperate to establish a more intimate relationship. I think we better refer to her as Janet. Coolly chatting to Janet after he had accidentally bumped into her one day, she told him that she would be babysitting the 3 young children of her next-door neighbour that evening and that John would be more than welcome to go round and help her in this onerous task. He more than happily accepted the invitation and promised to be round at about 8 o'clock that evening. Well, he duly arrived, all clean and shiny. Once the children were in bed and asleep, they spent an enjoyable few hours discussing the merits of various gluten-free breakfast cereals,
Wow.
exchanging views on the possible outcome of the forthcoming general election, that kind of thing. But then all too soon it became time for John to make his reluctant departure. So he and Janet made their fond farewells at the kitchen door, and he boarded his trusty bicycle to wend his happy way home. Except that he didn't, as the bicycle in question was nowhere to be seen. It had been stolen, certainly wasn't propped up against the wall next to the door where he had left it only a matter of hours earlier. Well, what to do? Much discussion ensued until it was agreed between them that the sensible adult solution was to contact the local constabulary and report the theft. And so the duty night shift police officer was duly telephoned. Surprisingly, he turned out to be rather concerned and very attentive, and he took down a detailed description of both the missing bicycle and of John. He promised that the incident would be fully documented and exhaustively investigated, and that John would be contacted in due course with the results of that investigation and hopefully the return of his treasured bicycle. Feeling rather deflated that such a pleasant evening had been ruined by the loss of this precious possession, John made his dejected way home on foot, pausing only to kick the occasional lamppost. Eventually he turned into his own gateway, avoided the bicycle that was leaning there, and let himself into his parents' house. And then it occurred to him, in fact it hit him like a sledgehammer, he had just negotiated past his own bike.
Oh, what?
Just where he had left it, before deciding to walk to his evening rendezvous with Janet, thus ensuring he didn't arrive out of breath, dishevelled and sweaty. Because Janet didn't like that kind of thing.
No.
That could come later.
No.
He immediately...
No.
Please. That's just,
he immediately telephoned the constabulary and explained to the now irate duty constable exactly what had happened.
Yeah.
My, how they both laughed. So the policeman was sorted. As for Janet, well, John had to come up with something a whole lot better. So John told her that apparently a gang of hardened thieves were working the area. They knew a good bike when they saw one, so they were the bad guys. They were called the Chopper Gang. And they were named after Bob Chopper Harris and his brothers Sid and Stan.
Right.
Well, Janet turned out to be proper scared, so obviously John had to console her extensively. John would have got away with it if Janet hadn't spoken to the police herself, such was her fear of the Chopper Gang. PC Copper told Janet, I'm afraid your boyfriend is a lying toe rag.
Yes. Yeah.
So as a result, Janet refused to have anything more to do with him, labelling him as a brainless and totally unworthy kind of person, and any chance of rekindling their short-lived relationship was absolutely out of the window, much to John's heartfelt regret. Father Simon, is there the slightest possibility of the triumvirate offering a few kind and apologetic words to Janet on behalf of the rejected and dejected John, while at the same time forgiving him for being such an unthinking and careless idiot? After all, he was probably distracted by the thought of the possible exciting evening ahead of him. This is probably true. There you go. As a surprising P.S., sometime after this unfortunate incident, John stepped into Janet's life again and 3 years later, they were married.
Oh, lovely.
They went on to produce 2 children, and they have a number of grandchildren as well. So all's well that ends well. But in the meantime, to the matter in hand, wasting police time and all that kind of thing, and misleading Janet, what do you say, voice of authority, producer Susie?
Well, I do like a happy ending, and the ending got me. That is really lovely. However, there's a few things wrong with this. Who leaves a bike against a wall? Even if you had taken it there, get yourself a bike clock, and you did just waste everybody's time. So I'm sorry. I'm not forgiving you, John.
Harsh words from the
They
pub.
were very harsh,
brother
I
from
thought.
another gutter.
I mean, well, it was back in the 70s, wasn't it? We were all leaving our bikes out in the 70s, I imagine. So I get the feeling that Janet probably knew. She knew exactly what was going on. Knew what John. Well, you know what John's like with his bike and the Chopper Gang.
Yes.
So I am going to forgive.
But it's the people